American soccer fans, welcome to episode 173 of the USA Soccer Cast. We're bringing you everything about the U.S. national teams, the players, the leagues, and everything else that impacts the game of soccer in these United States. I'm Donald Wine. It's Friday, January 30th, and we have to talk about the press conference that Mauricio Pochettino had yesterday, the virtual press conference that he had from the headquarters, at least the U.S. headquarters of FIFA in Miami. I was on that press conference. A lot of national journalists were on there. It's the first press conference of the year for Mauricio Pochettino ahead of what is going to be a busy year for the World Cup. He was talking mainly about what they're doing to prepare for the friendlies against Belgium and Portugal, which will take place in Atlanta in March. And obviously, there's a lot of questions about that. We're going to talk about some of the January transfers that either have happened or have been rumored to happen. He addressed some of the guys making moves in January to try and set themselves up to make the roster ahead of the World Cup, and we'll talk about that after the break. But what I want to talk about first is the very last question of the press conference. Andrew Jones of the Believe Network, he is a good friend of mine. We've known each other over the years, been on these press conferences and seen each other in person. Real good guy. And every time that he gets a question is usually one of the last questions of the press conference. And naturally, I'm one of those people who also gets questions towards the end after all the national media, after everybody else. A lot of times I have to wait through all of that. And to do so, if I have a question, a lot of times my first, my second, sometimes my fifth, sixth, seventh question that I have in my mind is taken by somebody else. And of course, all of us are talking about the same things. A lot of us are asking some of the same questions. But it's hard to get that in if you're not one of the first people to be called on. Andrew Jones was called on last. And he asked the question of Mauricio Pochettino and talked about the ticket prices, the high ticket prices that FIFA has been charging for World Cup tickets. Of course, we've talked on this show about the World Cup ticketing process, how expensive these tickets are, how convoluted the application process was, and how that is still going on, and how we still haven't heard whether or not we've gotten the tickets from this latest application round. So as we get into this, I want you to first listen to the question and answer from Andrew Jones and then from Mauricio Pochettino. Andrew Jones brings up the fact that Tim Weah just last week commented on how expensive these ticket prices were, how they were shutting out a lot of fans, and they needed to figure out a way to make things more accessible. He mentioned that in a question Jones did to Pochettino to ask Pochettino what he thinks FIFA should do, not necessarily asking about Tim Weah, but using that as a prompt for Mauricio Pochettino's thoughts on how ticket pricing should go. Here is the question from Andrew Jones, and of course the answer from Mauricio Pochettino.
Last question comes from Andrew Jones.
Thanks, Michael, and Happy New Year to you, and Feliz Año Nuevo to you, Mauricio, for this year. In terms of just the importance of a home World Cup towards the home fan base and crowd, Tim Weah was asked last month about the World Cup ticket prices, and he felt that it was still too expensive in his mind. Now, FIFA has decided to have a supporter entry list to try to give a section of reasonable prices towards fans of the national teams here in Mexico and Canada. Do you feel that FIFA is doing enough in regards to making this very biggest World Cup ever affordable for fans?
First of all, I think players need to talk on the pitch, playing football, no outside of the. It's not his duty to evaluate the price of the ticket. And then also my duty is to prepare the team, the USMNT national team, in the best way to perform. We are no politician. We are sport people that only we can talk about our job. And I think if FIFA does something or takes some decision, they know why, and it's their responsibility to explain why.
And my thanks to Andrew Jones for supplying that audio for me. He had posted that online on his Twitter page. Obviously, this has blown up. There's been several articles all across the internet about Mauricio Pochettino's comments on ticket pricing. And I think, first of all, I want to again, defend Andrew Jones for this because this is an important question. This is a question, it wasn't asked out of spite or pettiness or as a gotcha question. This was a question that is important. We have been talking about it. You have been talking about it. Fans have been talking about how expensive this World Cup has been, how inaccessible it feels for everybody, not just the people, even the people who can afford these tickets. It's still asking a lot of them to put so much money towards a World Cup on home soil. And fans around the world are talking about this. It's all a part of the greater facet of this tournament. This large sporting event that's going to be the biggest sporting event in world history is also going to be the most expensive in world history. And we can't overlook that. Andrew Jones, I thought, had a great question. I thought it was well thought out. It was well articulated, and it was fair above all. And so, with that aside, I want to get to the answer from Pochettino, which was, in my mind, disappointing. And I'm sure for a lot of you out there, it was disappointing to say the least. To first kind of throw Tim Weah under the bus when the question wasn't about Tim Weah, saying that he needs to just talk on the pitch and not outside, and it's not his duty to evaluate ticket prices, again, is unfair. This is one of the stars of a U.S. national team that we assume is going to be one of the main front runners to make this World Cup roster. Nobody's a gimme, but if there are gimmies out there, Tim Weah's name is probably one of those gimmies. He has a leading chance to be one of the guys who leads this team out of the locker room and onto the field for the World Cup on home soil. And so his comments, his platform that he has is great. The fact that players are speaking up and saying these tickets are too expensive means something to me. It means something to these fans. And I'm sure it means something to the players because they want us there. They want us supporting them. But if we can't get there because it's too expensive or tickets are being given to, everyone not that doesn't follow this game to the highest bidder, that's going to affect them. That's going to affect their support. It's going to affect their performance on the field. And make no mistake, they can still execute without us there, but the support is necessary. It's vital to them feeling the moment bigger than themselves, to feel like they're representing their home country on home soil at the biggest sporting event ever. And so Tim Weah was not out of bounds with his comments. Rather, he's very much in bounds. This is his lane. This is his duty. It's the duty of all these players, in my mind, to speak up about things that affect the game in the negative and try to turn it into a positive. He wasn't calling out FIFA or anything like that. He just said ticket prices are expensive and we need to work on a way to get these fans who support us day in and day out into the building so that they can cheer us on and that we can feel their support. So for Pochettino, in my mind, to say that is not his duty, either Weah's or himself, to evaluate ticket prices and that they're just essentially just supposed to prepare for the World Cup and play on the field, that's not something that I believe in. And I'm sure a lot of you have those same feelings. He said, quote, "Our responsibility is to perform, play, and perform on the pitch. And then the people that are in charge of the federation, maybe he can give his opinion, but I am the head coach of the federation. And I think we have the organization over us that is FIFA that is doing an amazing job around the world uniting people because I think FIFA unites people," end quote. Now, again, FIFA has already said that they really don't care about these ticket prices. They think they're in bounds. They quote the fact that 500 million ticket requests came in as a signal that the ticket prices are correct. They talk about resale value, and even Gianni Infantino himself has admitted that, hey, some of these people are going to get priced out because you can resell your ticket for as high a price as you want. And people are doing that. And so that is going to really have an effect on the support. The people who are there when there's 100, it's 115-degree heat index outside, when it's minus 20 in Minnesota for a World Cup qualifier. Watching a game that's at 9 a.m. because the game is in Bosnia. Watching a game that's at 11 p.m. because it's in California. Like, the people here support this team with their dollars, with their time, with their passion, with their souls. And to be told that it's not the responsibility of the team or the coach or the federation to say, how do we get as many of those fans in the building as possible is out of bounds in my mind. Like that is part of the job. It's part of the job for the U.S. women's national team when they have to speak up about things. And when we ask for that, because that platform was set by the people who preceded them, that platform was built by the players who were on the field before them. And it's the same way for the men's national team, too. They have a platform that is bigger than most. I can only speak to you who listen. You may share it with people, but I'm not going to get the reach that one comment from Mauricio Pochettino or from Tim Weah or from Christian Pulisic or any other player or coach can reach. I just don't have that reach. Y'all out there, unfortunately, don't have that reach either. Collectively, we might be able to get something viral, but that's not what this is about. These guys have a platform, and they should be compelled or should feel free to use it to support things that help grow the game. Ticket prices, accessibility, affordability are things that I will always fight for. And that is an important aspect of this game. If your fans can't get into the gym, then how are you going to feel their support on the field? If your fans are at the tippy top of the stadium, that just means we have to expend extra energy to get that momentum down to the field. It's little things like that people that play the game and officiate the game and administer the game don't think about. But us fans do all the time. But we don't have the voice. Tim Weah does. Mauricio Pochettino does. Christian Pulisic does. Tyler Adams does. Like those type of guys have a platform that we don't. They have a reach that we don't. And yes, part of that responsibility, in my humble opinion, is to comment on these things, is to try and right atrocities and try and right wrongs when they exist. And right now, at least Tim Weah is trying. He offered his opinion and said, hey, ticket prices are too expensive. He's right. They are. They need to be lowered. He's right. They do. And Mauricio Pochettino kind of stomping on that. And then also on top of that, basically saying, shut up and play. That is not what he should be doing. He should be uplifting his players. He should be backing them. And I think the last thing I'll say about this is that Mauricio Pochettino has had some instances in the past, in the most recent past, where he has commented on the fans and his perceived lack of support. The amount of people who were in the stands for Nations League, for random friendlies. He has chastised fans for not showing up and not being loud and not cheering on their team when things were bad. And even as we approach this tournament, he's now saying that doesn't matter. That's not his job. So it can't be both. And, I like Mauricio Pochettino, like a lot of things that he does, but we have to call out when he is the wrong. And at this point, I think he's wrong. Ticket prices do matter. He needs to be at the forefront of helping get as many American fans and supporters into the buildings for these games as possible. That's what we have built for since we were awarded the World Cup in 2018. 8 years ago. I know he came in at the tail end of that process, but he's part of this process. And I don't get why, A, he would throw Tim Weah under the bus when it wasn't about Tim Weah's comments. It was asking for his. And B, why he felt the need to just say that that's not his job, because it is. And I get that he was, where he was when he was conducting this press conference. I get that he probably had, he has other people he has to respond to, but everybody has to understand that this is something that we're talking about. Fans are upset, rightfully so, at these ticket prices. The fact that a $60 ticket might be something you can get, or in the case of the opener, it's either going to be $60 or $1,120 minimum to get into that game. That's a huge discrepancy. That shouldn't happen. And especially when other World Cups, $1,120, I could probably say that $1,120 could cover 3 World Cups that I've been to total, all the tickets. And now we're asking for that for one game because it happens to be the first game for the United States on home soil. That's what he should be talking about as well as getting ready to play on the pitch because all of that is intertwined. So I know what y'all are thinking about this, but I'd love to hear from you on it. Comment on social media, comment wherever, because this conversation needs to be had. And I welcome people who think that they shouldn't be talking about this and that they shouldn't. I get that many people think that they don't have the power to change ticket prices, but they do. There's a reason why $60 tickets were introduced. You know, in the lack of a better word, bullying works. And people have been talking about it for so long that FIFA tried to throw something at to appease them, but it hasn't been enough because there's only a few hundred tickets for tens of thousands of people to apply for. And for everybody else, it's sorry, you might be left out in the cold because you can't afford these tickets. That's what Mauricio Pochettino should be fighting for. He should be fighting for the people who have backed this team through thick and thin, from Cuba to Cleveland, from Hamilton to Harrison. Those people who have been to these different games here and around the world and now cannot watch a game in their own backyard because it's too expensive. He needs to fight for those people. That's how I'll leave it. Fight for the people who fight it for you this whole time. It's as simple as that. We'll be right back. We're going to talk about transfers after this.
Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Because Progressive offers discounts for paying in full, owning a home, and more. Plus, you can count on their great customer service to help when you need it, so your dollar goes a long way. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save on car insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
Hey everyone, are you looking for the latest gear for your U.S. national teams, Major League Soccer, the NWSL, or any other team in the world of soccer? The USA Soccer Cast has affiliate partnerships that are ready to help you out. Head to linktree.com/USA SoccerCast, where we have links to Homage, Fanatics, the MLS Store, and Breaking Team. You can get the jersey, shirt, hat, or accessory you're looking for to support your team, while also saving some money and helping this show in the process. Again, linktree.com/USA SoccerCast. Click on the links and get your gear. And we thank you as always for your support of the show. We're back and we shift our attention to the January transfer window because it's kind of been volatile. At least I'll say energetic for U.S. men's national team players. We've seen a lot of guys making some moves and some big ones as well. And I want to focus on a few of them that we've had. Alex Freeman just completed a move to Villarreal from Orlando City. I think that's a great move for him. We'll talk about, what I think about these moves in a second. Ethan Horvath is transferring home. He's coming to the New York Red Bulls. He's going to return to the United States and play in MLS. Sean Johnson made a move. He's at DC United. Of course, I'll get to see him and hopefully get a chance to talk to him very, very soon. So stay tuned for that. Ricardo Pepi. These are the rumored ones that I want to talk about. Ricardo Pepi being rumored to a move to Fulham. It has not gone through yet. They're still talking about whether this will happen or not. There's still a few days before the transfer window closes, but that has been one that people have been keeping an eye on. And in just the saga of Josh Sargent, he wants to go to Toronto FC. Norwich wants to send him to a couple other places. He has turned those offers down, and now there's kind of beef between Sargent and Norwich about this whole thing. Again, we'll talk about those in a second, but I want to go back to the ones that I think that have gone through and just overall. Guys making moves in January can be a risk because you're introducing yourself to a new team, a new situation. new tactics, new formations, and you have to get up to speed immediately because for a lot of these guys, especially the guys abroad, it's not like there's a break. These guys are coming into a team that is full on go for the rest of the season, and they have to get up to speed quickly and adapt quickly and get on the field and get consistent, regular, competitive minutes. So it was hard for guys to break through in that regard. And in a World Cup year, that can mean the difference between their sharpness. It can mean, or it could affect their sharpness, I should say, but it could be the difference between them making the roster and not. That sharpness can affect them if they're not able to get up to speed. So Mauricio was asked about this, and he overall was generally supportive of these guys making the moves that they think were necessary to get into a better club situation so that they can be ready for March and ready to expend their energy and give their all to try and make this World Cup roster. He commented on Alex Freeman. He said Alex Freeman had consulted him, which I think players should do, right? I think they should get all the information possible about a move before they do it so that they put themselves in the best position for success. And I think in the case of Alex Freeman going to Villarreal, I think this is a really interesting move because most fans who say they want MLS players to ply their trade in Europe and make the move to Europe, they really mean the Premier League. And for me, I've always said that the Bundesliga and La Liga, and to a lesser extent Serie A, are just as great a destination for some of these players because we want players to have different exposures to different tactics and different formations and styles of play, not just on the club level, but the international level. We talk about all the different teams that the United States faces and how they may help when we enter the group stage of a World Cup. For the club level, it's the same thing. Alex Freeman going to Villarreal presents a different dynamic, and I think is also a team that really needs defensive help, and I think he can thrive in that role. And that'll only help boost his confidence. That'll only help keep him sharp and really compete to be on the World Cup roster, which if it started today, I would think he is on this roster. But again, it's a risk for him to do that because if he goes to Villarreal and doesn't play, he's not going to get called in. And if he's out of sight, out of mind, he's probably out of the World Cup. So that is an interesting move for him. I really hope it works out for him, but I think it will because I think guys moving to La Liga usually have a pretty good go of it if they end up in the right situation. Ethan Horvath coming back to the United States to play for Red Bulls. Again, he's trying to get into that World Cup roster. Sean Johnson moving to DC United is about, being those two guys maybe being on the outside looking in and trying to play their way back into the mix with regards to goalkeepers. It's interesting. There's only going to be one starter, right? So it's the one place where you're not really subbing guys in and out, and it's not like all these guys got to be ready to play, or at least to expect to play on a regular basis, because there's only really one goalkeeper that plays all 90 minutes or in the knockout stage 120 plus penalties. And Ethan Horvath, I think, would be great for this roster. Sean Johnson could be a great third keeper for this roster, but there's going to be some competition there. And all of these guys are going to have to perform quickly. And you couple that with, Freeze being with New York City FC, Matty Turner still with the Revs. You have all these guys who are in MLS. They're all going to be playing each other. They're all in the Eastern Conference. So it's going to be interesting to see how these guys compete with each other. And then you throw in Patrick Schulte, who is with Cincinnati. You have Roman Celentano, who's with FC Cincinnati. All these guys are going to be playing each other. And so you're going to see these combinations, these battles between them defensively, at least. So the competition is going to be great, and it's going to be interesting to see how that shapes up for the goalkeeper spots. Of course, I think Matt Freese is the leader in the clubhouse right now, but Turner wants his spot back. He wants this, goalkeeper one spot back, and it'll be interesting to see if he's able to get it. It'll be interesting to see if Ethan Horvath and Sean Johnson are able to perform well immediately with their clubs and get back into that conversation. Who the goalkeepers are in March, I think, will tell a really good tale about what Mauricio Pochettino is thinking as far as the guys he wants to bring to the World Cup. Now let's go to the rumors, the rumored transfers that have yet to happen, but could happen before the window closes on February 2nd. Ricardo Pepi to Fulham is, I don't know if that's the right move for him. I think on an emotional level, it would be. Him going to the Premier League would be great. Him going to full America would be even better to pair with Jedi Robinson. I think that would be very cool. But he's done so well at PSV, at Eindhoven. He's done so well with, again, Sergio Dest there too. He's done well with that American team in the Netherlands. He's really found his confidence there. And that's what he needs to have to be in this World Cup. And I don't know if he loses that going to Fulham. It'll be harder for him to crack the starting 11 at Fulham, who again are in the Premier League, and every week it's so pressure filled. He may need that in the long run, but will this be the right move for him right now? In my mind, remains to be seen. I'm happy to be wrong because I would love to see Pepe thrive no matter where he is. I think he is a dynamic player. I think he and Folarin Balogun are battling for the starting striker spot, and there's qualities to both in that lineup, and having those two as a 1-2 punch is great for me. I think that this team will be productive if those two guys are, and both of them are showing that they can be confident in front of goal and score, both at the club level and the international level. So look out for that Pepe move. It would be a huge move if he does. And, again, I would love to see him, if he does go to Fulham, if he's able to get into that starting lineup quickly and show that he can make it in the Premier League. That'll do wonders for him. But it could also be a move that can be done over the summer after the World Cup when he has a chance to make the team, which again he missed in 2022. So he really wants to get on this team and be able to perform, and then maybe the suitors come calling after that as well. So remains to be seen with him. With Josh Sargent, I think his saga at Norwich City, troubling is not the right word, but it's definitely concerning because he has had a rut on the international level whenever he comes in, and he hasn't featured on the men's national team in quite a while. When he does come in, he's either hurt or he plays and he doesn't score. He hasn't scored in, I believe, 6 years with the national team. Not since I was at Truman Bodden Stadium in the Cayman Islands back in 2019 when they faced Cuba in that first group stage of CONCACAF Nations League. So to go that long without a goal on the national team, he's on the outside looking in. And every time he gets called in, most times he gets hurt, but again, other times he disappears. And now you have this, where he wants to go to Toronto FC. Apparently the move is around $18 to $20 million. It'd be a huge transfer. He wants to go there. Norwich doesn't want to send him there. Norwich has received other offers from other teams in England. And Sargent has apparently turned down those other transfer offers. There's been a lot of reporting about this. Again, some by more reputable reporters and some just kind of those aggregators. But apparently there was a meeting between Sargent and top brass at Norwich. It became a heated meeting. And as a result of that meeting, he's now training with the U21s. And some say he has likely played his last game for Norwich City. So where does he go? What does he do? Like, is he going to hold out for Toronto FC? Is he going to end up going somewhere else? Is he going to make up with Norwich and stay there? I don't know what the answer should be about where he ends up. But I think the clock is running out on him because he needs to show that he can stay healthy, that he can score at a high level, and that he can be consistently good. Because as he has, not been on the national team, as he's been hurt, as he's, again, had these ruts of production, other guys have stepped up. Other guys have impressed Pochettino before that, Berhalter. They've impressed these guys, and it's going to be difficult to break through that, especially when, if you look at the, depth chart, he's closer to the bottom than the top. Now, people like his game, and, when he's on, he's on. Like, he could be a really good player. But you have to be in the not just the right situation if you're Josh Sargent, you have to be in the perfect situation. And if you can't be, you got to make do with the situation you got and show everybody why you should be on this World Cup roster. You can't do that playing with the U21s. You can't do that training with the U21s. You can't do that when you're fighting with your team about where to go and being stuck in this purgatory that may last beyond the transfer window. Because of this, Josh Sargent may not go anywhere. And then he's stuck at Norwich and also not playing. So what's the next move there? Because then your chance of making this World Cup team are really, really down to the remote numbers. So for Josh Sargent, he needs to figure out what he wants to do and figure out how to get Norwich on that bandwidth so that he can go wherever he needs to go, or again, stay at Norwich, make up with everybody, and get back to putting his nose in the dirt and grinding and getting and working his way back up the depth chart. Because right now he's on the outside looking in, and this saga doesn't really help him. So it's going to be a long road for Josh Sargent to get back to one where he's a surefire inclusion in a national team roster. And he has to hope that March he gets called in. If he doesn't get called in March, that's likely it. Because he won't have a real opportunity to supplant the 3 or 4, 5 strikers that are in front of him, at least the true center strikers that are in front of him. So he has to figure out how to make up some ground very quickly. He cannot do that if he's stuck on a training ground with the U21s and not playing for his club. So that whole transfer thing, obviously, is something that we'll keep in tune with as we enter February, Black History Month. We'll have a lot of stuff here with Black History Month, both here, Stars and Stripes FC, my personal social medias. So stay tuned for all that. But there's a lot going on with the U.S. men's national team, even though there's been no matches. So we're going to keep on top of it, and we're going to continue to bring you at least my thoughts on everything as we go along. That will do it for episode 173 of the USA Soccer Cast. Thank you for listening. Remember, you can find us on Blue Sky, Twitter, and YouTube. Follow us on all those sites at USA Soccer Cast. Subscribe, rate, and review our shows. It helps us get in front of new people, and it's greatly appreciated. Tell your friends about us. Finally, head to linktree.com/USA Soccer Cast to check out our affiliate links and our stimulus store. We have everything you need to watch the beautiful game and follow your teams, and using those links also helps support the show. We'll talk to you again soon, y'all. Peace.